That's basically what I told the UFC a couple of months ago. I want to do this fight, see where I'm at, and see how I do. See how I perform, and then I can make a decision, Jose Aldo said. I'm looking at maybe a big boxing fight, maybe somewhere down the line later this year. But we'll have to revisit that with the UFC once this fight is done. That fight with Floyd Mayweather was basically all set. Ali was the one negotiating, and I really don't know what happened. It ended up not panning out for us to fight in Saudi Arabia, but there's a big event on Netflix later this year, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, and hopefully I can get on that. But we'll have to see. There's a lot of options floating. That is fascinating to me. That is fascinating for a number of reasons. First off, I'm a massive Jose Aldo fan, and I know that you guys are too. And I'm also a Jose Aldo believer. Like, there's not a lot of guys in MMA that could go over to boxing and do well, let alone to be interesting. But Jose fits that description to a degree, right? I mean, if he's going to talk silly like some of these other guys about what his purse would need to be, of course not. But 6 figures? Sure. Couple of 6 figures? Sure. Could probably work. But I'm still fascinated by it. At what point do you step in and grab the athlete by the collars and speak reality to him? Here's the thing, and I tell you this as a father and I tell you this as a coach, not as an athlete and or a promoter or your favorite YouTube personality. I say this as a father and a coach, responsible with guiding young men. If I could do anything with them, it would not be like if I had a magic wand, boom, this guy's a champion. Oh, this guy full ride scholarship, this guy. If I could do anything with them, I would just keep them going. The one and only piece of advice my father-in-law ever gave me, I asked him to take his only daughter. I asked for her hand. He's only given me one piece of advice, and he said, keep them going. Talking about the kids. It doesn't matter what their goals are, and it doesn't matter if they reach it or they don't. What matters is they keep coming back the next day. You know what they're doing with their time. They've got a level of focus. You send them home and their energy's gone, where they want to go home and stay at home. Great way to keep young people out of trouble. So when I ask you at what point do you grab Jose Aldo by the collars and let him know that this is fiction? These things that he believes is going to happen are not. Because the answer is not simply as soon as he starts thinking something that is false. That's not the answer. You don't want to take his dream away. You don't want to take his effort away. Not to mention, nobody has ever achieved anything that's great. Nothing you've ever read about. Nothing. Or when they first stated the idea or the dream or the goal, they weren't told that can't happen. So, combat is different though, right? It's not all moonlight and canoes. It's not a situation where you just keep everything rosy. It's about damage. Your body can only take so much. There is a level of responsibility here. And Jose's statements leave me with questions. Now, I want to jump into this, guys. And I don't want to do it all nice. I want to have an open conversation. But to hedge on nice to begin with, he's returning to the UFC. None of you thought he could. I didn't think he could. That's not the way it works. Nobody that was once champion and has now worked their way down the card to the point that they have left comes back. It has never happened. Nobody at this age has ever returned. So before we get all high and mighty as the experts in the space and start telling this young man who was the champion of the world for 11 years, not only has that never been done, that will never be done again in my lifetime. Not at 145 pounds. Absolutely it will not. You hold that strap at 145 for 11 months, you're a real man in my opinion. He held it for 11 years. Now, I am looking at this and I'm trying to be objective, is if he's fair and he's accurate and he wants to go and box and that's what he loves, he's damn good at it. And if he understands that his price tag is 6 figures, which is a great night out, wonderful. But how did we get to this spot? I mean, when I talk about that Jose is returning and it's never been done, it's very complicated to do. And according to this article, Jose had 1 fight left on his contract. He did not get a new deal with the UFC, as has been reported to us. He is just finishing an existing deal. And that does change things, because that makes a level of sense, doesn't it? Whether he wins or he does not win, he gets one more opportunity. What a beautiful thing. How many of us in life would like one more? Not to mention, it's in his hometown. It's a dream. Kind of everybody wins, right? But I found that interesting. So you're saying he was not released from his contract? That contract was not exhausted? Okay, because I watched him box. I watched him box Jeremy Stephens. So Jose was allowed to box while under an exclusive contract to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Fair enough. That's the exact same thing that George Masvidal claims he is doing. George Masvidal claims that he is still in his contract and that there has been a carve-out or an allowance for him to go and box, of which he's going to do with Nate Diaz. But I do find that interesting. I mean, not for nothing, I don't want to revisit old news, but there was just a class action lawsuit that was settled because allegedly guys were not allowed to do this very thing. I mean, not for nothing, but I would find that interesting. Moreover, did he leave the pool? If he was always planning to return, if he was given a carve-out, but always knew that he was going to return, he would have stayed in the pool. When I look at him, I can assure you he was not within the pool. So at what point did that change? Like, if you're going to go and do this fight, I mean, this was really big news. This was big news with Conor McGregor as it pertained to 300 and rumor and speculation that was out there, that it just couldn't be done. There was rumor and speculation within Brock Lesnar returning to 300. I understand that it was silly, but I'm the one that squashed that by letting you know what the rule was and that Brock would not be able to be in compliance. USADA came out to let you know Conor would not be under compliance, of which never got tested. It's a whole other story, but my point remains the same. I don't believe he stayed in the pool. There you go. So, if he re-entered the pool, for how long? Now, we fiercely adhere to the rules we make up on the spot. Like, I get that. And I don't begrudge this. I don't think USADA was right about Conor. I think USADA misinterpreted their own rule. I don't think they had the right to force him to sit 180 days. But the UFC said, even absent of USADA and breaking up with USADA, we're going to honor your opinion. This is a big deal, though. It's a very big deal. If we're going to honor that opinion without actually getting a ruling, then there's a precedence. And I was able to tell you guys wholeheartedly the rumors of Ronda Rousey returning at 300 just purely because of the rules of the pool were not true. I was able to tell you Brock Lesnar, as silly as these things were, you can stop with the pipe dream. Just purely per the rules, the eligibility is not there. But Jose is saying something very different here. And of course, there's room that I'm misinterpreting his words. Of course there is. I'm just having conversation with you guys. I'm not reporting something. But this is very interesting to me. That his contract was not frozen. It was not released. He was not able to go out on the open market. As a matter of fact, the very thing that a settlement just came down on for not being able to do, he was able to do. Just like George Masvidal was able to do it. Moreover, Jose mentions that he would like to fight on a big card with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul later this year. That sounds like a great idea to me. I like that. I like it a lot. I can't tease him for trying to fight. Like, I tease any champion, any big draw that offers to go underneath somebody else, particularly a 57-year-old man. But I can't tease him. I tried to fight George Masvidal on that same card. So I'm out of it. I can't tease him, right? You feel free to, but I can't do it. Is he aware that Mike Tyson and Jake Paul are not boxing? And I wonder all of these things. These things are of a tremendous level of interest to me. Jose Aldo versus Floyd Mayweather in Saudi Arabia. That's awesome. I love that idea. And there's only one guy that could pull that off, and that is Ali, whose name got drug into this. Like, that's fascinating to me. And what happens if Jose wins? Because we just got faced with this. We just got confronted 3 weeks ago. One of my favorite fighters ever, Chris Weidman, we believed was in his farewell tour. He won. And then he changed the script and said, I'm not retiring. And it's very hard to make him go, right, you can do anything, but it's just very hard to make him go out. And the UFC historically will always be protected. It won't be a feature match and so on and so forth, and might not even get the match if there isn't an extension. But Jose Aldo's made it very clear that this is his last, the last of his contract. And he is a feature match, and it is happening at home. By the way, if you guys have bared with me for the last 10 minutes and 46 seconds, hoping there was a final conclusion, there's not. It's very open-ended, but so was Jose's comments. They were all open-ended. We didn't get any of this closed up. And I'm trusting that the reporter that asked him the question is just not familiar enough with what the rules of the pool are and what the rules and policies are to understand how fascinating it is that the return of the king is even happening.